Hey guys, Havoc here once more with some more World of Warcraft gameplay. So yeah, something a little bit different today, and I'm going to get straight into this. World of Warcraft, it turns 8 on November the 18th. 8 years old. 8 years! God. So I played beta as well, so it must make me nearly 8.5 years of playing World of Warcraft. It's been fun, it's been good. Now I'm going to play something for you now. This is a podcast from the 17th of November 2006, only because I can't find anything WoW related before then. Listen to what these guys are talking about. That set the scene for you. Burning Crusade is just about to release, or is about to be released. It's hit the public test realms. It's being tested. It's in beta test at the moment. They're amazed that warriors with Shield Slam can do 2,000 damage with a hit on a crit. And let's face it, today that would be well, you'd be a noob if you couldn't achieve anywhere near that. But listen to what they're sort of saying. The account problems still applied today, and some of the rage normalization chitter chat. To give you an idea of what was being talked about back 6 years ago when this game was just moving out of vanilla and into TBC. So I give you the episode 1, WoW Things Considered, from WoW Radio. Please bear in mind, guys, WoW Radio is now gone, unfortunately. So any of the websites and the references, they've all gone. I'm really sorry. I think WC Radio does have, WCRadio.com does still exist, but only as a placeholder, and it does have an archive where you can download individual tracks, but by and large, this side has gone by the by. Thank you very much, guys. Catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy.
Sir, I'm a reporter for WoW Things Considered. Can I get a moment of your time?
Flame! Death! Destruction!
Mr. Kel'Thuzad, what's your take on the allegations that you're now placed on farm status?
Fools! You think yourselves triumphant? You have only taken one step closer to the abyss.
Mr. Noggenfogger, is it true that your famous drinks are really a ploy designed to bring the entire world of Azeroth under goblin control? Breaking news for the Horde. It seems that Edwin Van Cleef has been arrested today for the kidnapping of Mankurt's wife and aggravated assault on unfortunate players doing this quest. Upon questioning, Van Cleef's only response was that people stop calling his lair Dire Hall. Bringing you all the latest news and analysis from all parts of the WoW community, this is WoW Things Considered, only here on WoW Radio. Good evening, folks. You're listening to WoW Things Considered here on WoW Radio, a brand new show formerly known as Farm Status, with myself, Kedwalion, Dunkor, Nobunaga, and the mysterious mage that you've all been wondering, who could it possibly be?
Well, Cad, why don't you tell us, who is the mystery mage?
Well, after much amusement as we listened to all the forum people and the chat room over the last week as to who it could possibly be, could it be Total Biscuit? Could it be Slanik? Could it be Kay? Even Deathshade? One name was never mentioned the entire time, and I'm proud to announce...
Abraham Lincoln?
Besides Abraham Lincoln, unfortunately Abraham Lincoln does not count because I have broken my time machine. But no, the new mage... to WoW Things Considered, everyone give a hand for Moose, who is now going to be joining us full-time on the show.
Why, hello there.
Yes, indeed, folks. Moose will be joining us full-time for the rest of this show, so give him a warm welcome here in the chat room. And if you're not in the chat room, you should be. You can get there by either going to our website, wcradio.com, clicking the chat room button, and joining via our web chat. Or if you have an IRC client, join to irc.wowirc.com. But I think for some of those people that don't exactly know what's going on, we should probably give them a bit of a description about this brand new show. Okay then, I guess I'll be the one to describe it. While Things Considered is a brand new show that stemmed from Farm Status. Farm Status has been a very successful show. It has run for several months, but due to various constraints and decisions to expand, we have made this brand new show, and people are wondering, what could this possibly be, and how does this affect me? Well, While Things Considered is very simple. News for all aspects of WoW, be it the add-on scene, the news from Blizzard, the community scene, the role-playing scene, you name it, we're gonna give you the latest information about it here in an open platform and bring you interviews and discussions on the latest information.
Indeed. It all kind of started during Farm Status when CAD received an interesting PM. Why don't you tell them about that, the thing that sort of started this all?
Yes, indeed. Way back about 2 months into the show for Farm Status, after it had been kicked off, I had received a PM from someone on the forum saying, "Hey, I loved your show, it's a really great thing, I loved the interviews that you did, and I think you guys should have some more, and I'm a big fan of National Public Radio, and I think that when looking at you guys on WoW Radio, you guys are the all things considered of WoW Radio." Now, when we were going through and looking at the show again to see what we could spice up here and there, I remembered this PM and went, "Hey, that's a great idea. Why don't we make things more news-oriented and more interview-oriented and bring more information to people rather than just sitting here discussing about things that people already know about?" And lo and behold, the new show was born.
Indeed, what you're going to find here on this show is a little spice of everything. We'll be talking, of course, about some in-game content in a section of the show called Farm Status, which we'll be talking about in-game content, how it's changing, where it's going, etc., etc. But you're also going to have interviews from mod makers. You're going to have interviews from people in the community. You'll have people, interviews from, people who make products for World of Warcraft. It's going to be a much broader show than what Farm Status was before.
Indeed, and hopefully we'll be able to cover more aspects and bring you more news than we had previously in Farm Status, and more general, so that more people will actually be interested and say, "Hey, I know that show, that's a great show, wow, Things Considered, lots of new information."
A reigning silence.
Indeed. So, now that we've informed our lovely audience what we're going to be talking about in this show from the weeks to come, let's start off with our first news item of the night. And this is a very big story, a very personal story to me, as this was brought in by a guildmate of mine about a very big thing going on that a lot of people don't know about, and that is character stealing.
My God.
Ah, my gods, indeed. Now you might be thinking, so what is character stealing? How is it done? I mean, how is this possible with the current system put in place? So let me give you a little bit of a backstory. Character stealing has started up just about when they first initiated transfers from a character off of an account. Now, a lot of people question whether or not that this is really considered stealing and whether or not they deserve it, because in reality they need some big information, and 9 times out of 10 it ends up being people sharing accounts and things going bad from there. And that's why Blizzard isn't exactly a fan of some of the situations that have come up from here. But this is a story of a character, a Grand Marshal attained character, going all the way up, doing the grind, making it, and their account has just fine, but their character has been stolen right without them in less than a few hours. That's the mind-boggling thing. One character stolen in a simple matter of a couple hours. So we talked to this guy, got a little bit of information from him, and we've got a full transcript describing what's been happening and how this happened.
Yep, personally, a bit of a lull, but, it is quite a serious issue. The fact that someone has the ability to, ninja your character, more or less, for lack of another World of Warcraft description, it's a tad bit scary.
Yes, it's scary that the thought that I could wake up in the morning and, not have any of my 60s or be one less, one that I'd worked so much to get to where he's at and all that stuff. But in order to have someone log into your account, change your password, transfer one of your characters to another account, they would need some personal information. Not only your login information, but also first name, last name, all that kind of great stuff. That's not that easy to get. Usually that's stuff you give to people. So giving people this information, you expect, there's a certain amount of risk in sharing accounts.
I completely agree, but there is, on the other hand, a very big area going on with keyloggers and Trojans going around, specifically Trojans dealing with stealing World of Warcraft passwords. If you go to the Symantec website and search for passwordstealer.wow, you will actually get an officially licensed, or not licensed, but an officially registered Trojan on their website completely describing it. Its only purpose is to steal World of Warcraft passwords for things like this. Taking someone's character, transferring it to another account and sending it, or selling it, deleting accounts, malicious things like that. And sure, most of the time when accounts or characters get stolen, it has to do with account sharing, but in those few times, it can be just an awful thing to see that you've just been playing, doing nothing, minded your own business on your own account, and bam, stolen, all of your work is gone.
Especially a Grand Marshal, and to add to that, it was the first Grand Marshal mage on our server.
Alright, so you're probably still wondering, how exactly does this happen? I mean, sure, if you've got account information you can transfer over, but there's so much you could do. I mean, why wouldn't Blizzard be able to track this, especially if it was keyloggers? So we'll give you a brief glimpse into how it works. Essentially, the person that's planning on stealing the account buys a new copy of WoW. They end up making it with their first and last name of the account that they're stealing, thus allowing them to be able to transfer characters off of the account, and then, by however means necessary, they get the account information for the character that they're stealing. They log on to it, they go to a different server entirely, and they make a character with the exact same name as the character they're stealing. When you do that, you end up making it so that if they transfer over to that server, they have to rename the character, thus decreasing the amount of possibility of finding it by having the exact same character and not having people constantly PMing you and having the same name, and it's just a whole lot easier for anonymity. So you make a level 1 character with the exact same name on a different server that you can transfer to. You go to account management, you say you want to change the character over to that specific server. They say, alright, cool, but you need to rename your character because you already have a character there with that name. So you rename it to whatever the person actually wants, and lo and behold, you have that character transferred over to a different server. They're already pissing off someone. Now they go the extra mile, and they have their new account, their new copy of WoW with the name, and initiate a transfer. And lo and behold, now you have a character that is stolen off of an account that has a different username and password, has a different login so that you don't have the same information, and no way of being able to track it with the exception of Blizzard helping you.
Yes, but Blizzard would be able to tell all these things. They would be able to tell what account yours was transferred to, what server, what the name was changed into. They have all these things in logs. So it's very easy for them to look this stuff up and find this. In this case, it's slightly different, and you can go into explaining more about this guy on your server.
Alright, so we have already gone through how it is that you do it and how you transfer over, but this is a rather unique situation for this mage on our server. Now, he ends up having, this is true, he has actually account shared, because, I mean, let's face it, how many people get up to Grand Marshal just by themselves? I'm fairly certain that there's pretty much no one that does it by themselves, no one else helping them the entire time, no account sharing whatsoever. But he's at least a little bit smart. When he has passed with his account sharing, he would change his password every 2 months. So that way, he knows exactly who has the password at all times. Now that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to account share, make certain you know exactly who has the password and keep changing it so that you've got the least amount of time to be hacked. Well, that also makes it so that you know exactly who to talk to and what the problem is with it. Now, he ends up having the situation where his Grand Marshal Mage gets stolen from him. And while sad, the very interesting aspect was that this was all done in a couple hours. Now, if you look at the account transfer and the character transfer listing and all the information for it, it says it should take 5 days up to. That's a lot of time. Now, this one happens to happen in a couple hours. How is it that something this suspicious could possibly only take a couple hours when people just average Joe Schmo wanting to transfer over their character to a different server due to latency issues has to wait 5 days, potentially, in order for something to actually happen?
I don't know, just could be the luck of the draw sometimes. Certain servers don't take it. I mean, I transferred my my Gnome Rogue from Argent Dawn to Shadow Council when they first popped up, and it only took me about that amount of time, but it was, like the first day it was out.
This is true. I mean, I can understand from situation of having a very high population server trying to transfer over due to latency. A lot of people are going to want to do that. There's a lot of demand for it. But I mean, it's not like this was some switch very quickly and you're done. This is a transfer from one server to another and a transfer from an account to an account over a couple hours. I mean, that in itself is very, very suspicious.
Yeah, it does seem it's slightly faster than a normal person would get their account transferred, but as I said, it could be a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Blizzard, doesn't try and make things faster. I mean, for all we know, it could very well be that, he just got lucky. The person doing the transfer, that is.
This is true. So, we'll continue on this lovely story. He goes through, he realizes this has happened, goes, wow, what's the deal? He goes, looks at the account history and sees that it's been transferred, and that there's a new character with the same name, a level 1 dwarf there. Wow, that's weird. So he ends up emailing Blizzard saying, hey, my account has lost this mage, it's happened only in a couple hours, what's the deal with this? Is this a glitch? What happened? 45 minutes on the phone. He's talking to billing and support, and they said, alright, sorry, you have to email wowadmin@blizzard.com, tell them your story, because we can't help you over the phone. So he decides, alright, I'll write my lovely little situation out to an email it to him, and see what happens. So he says, alright, my password's been changed, was changed, I had to call billing to have it reset, I logged into my account, and my character's missing. But I did receive an email stating that my character had been moved to another account name named Dex. I'm going to keep the end part of that account due to anonymity's sake, and that account does not belong to me. I have almost a week, and I've been waiting almost another week, and there's been no response. Can I talk to anyone? And so he ended up not getting a response for a while, and he decided, alright, fine, enough's enough. I'm going to call the representative again, see what's taking so long, because this is crazy. So he sits on the phone for another 45-minute wait, racking up his phone bill, and gets to talk to a rep, and says, alright, well, sorry, you have to petition an in-game GM. So he logs onto his account, he sends an in-game GM mail and says, hey, all this has happened, yada yada yada, ends up waiting for a response, gets a response saying, alright, cool, he'll send all the information to WoW admin. Yet again, having to talk to WoW admin again, having the runaround all over the place. But eventually, he does get a response. He gets a response saying that, this is the official response. It has recently been brought to our attention that the World of Warcraft account you are using has been willingly shared by a third party. For example, a sibling, a friend, and or a leveling service. The account has received the following action. Account name, blah, 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 realm, blah, 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 and character name, blah, blah, blah. Account action, a warning. He ends up getting a warning for account sharing. And that's it. And it says, due to thorough investigation, we have found that the registered user of the account has shared account login information and has allowed others to access the account, therefore making it impossible for him to get his character back. And Blizzard goes on to say that all transfers are irreversible, and that we can't do anything about it, and you've been warned for account sharing, so don't do it ever again. So not only does this guy get his character stolen, he gets warned, and Blizzard decides to say, yep, it's irreversible, sorry, we're not going to do anything for you, there's nothing we can do, hope you have a nice day, you've wasted all of your time.
Which is lame. I mean, I can understand from Blizzard's viewpoint, kind of. Yeah, he shared his account that's against TOS, I think. I think it's in TOS. And yeah, he got paid money for this character transfer because there's no other way to do it. But it's a freaking Grand Marshal 60. Someone spent, like, a lot of time on this, and they don't even have even a little sympathy, much less a reverse transfer.
Well, I mean, I definitely understand their point of view. When they looked at his account, they noticed that many, many people other than him have been logging into this account. And though, I mean, it's entirely possible that he shares his account and it's very secure because he changes the password, and he may have gotten a keylogger or a Trojan that got his account info, and some gold farming service stole it or whatever, and all that is very possibly could have happened. But from Blizzard's standpoint, they look at this account, they see that it's been accessed by many, many different IPs, and constantly switching IPs, and also stuff like that. The password changes every now and again, and then suddenly this guy's complaining that his character's missing. Well, from their perspective, they see a guy with a history of sharing his account, losing his character, and having it stolen from him. From their perspective, I can totally see their point of, well, it sucks, but you did share your account a whole hell of a lot, which is against the terms of service.
This is true. Unfortunately, the big problem is, alright, so he did account share. That's a big problem with Blizzard terms of service. But isn't it also a problem with the system where every single person that has hit Grand Marshal goes and has to account share or completely waste all of their life in order to attain it? I mean, I can see that Blizzard now understands that the situation doesn't work, which is why they're changing the honor system, but shouldn't they have at least a little bit of mercy for this guy who spends all this time grinding? Granted, account sharing at the same time, but everyone that goes to Grand Marshal does that and gets his character stolen and then sold.
I completely agree that the honor system was messed up, and that the only people who got to Grand Marshal were people who shared their accounts with guildies and friends in order to get the amount of honor required each week, which is a massive amount. And the change to the honor system completely removes that, and it's great. But just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean it's right. What he was doing was wrong, and he knew that at the time, and unfortunately, this is what happens.
No. Welcome back, folks. Apologies for the technical difficulties. That was incredibly unexpected.
Total suckage.
Yes, indeed. It seems that our server has been turned off at the moment, and so while we have some staff going about screaming at our server provider to get us back online, we are on this current server, and we will be using this for the rest of the night. If you end up having situations like this in the future, you can shoot Dunkor and then buy a Dunkor t-shirt.
What?
Or something like that. Just, we won't do this ever again. I don't want to do it ever again.
No, that's okay. We've installed the new LV boss mods for our service provider. We should be okay.
All right. But anyway, back to the regularly scheduled show now that we've had that lovely hiccup for 10-15 minutes. This is WoW Things Considered, and we were discussing character stealing and the implications of character stealing and whether it is justified if there's account sharing going on. Now, to give you a bit of a quick jogging of the memory, there is a person, a guildie of mine, that has had a situation where his character, which is a Grand Marshal mage, and the first Grand Marshal mage on our server, has been stolen. Shebang, gone, stolen from him permanently, and Blizzard will not help him. Now, we talked about the fact that he tried sending an email, and he got a response saying, sorry, you're being warned for your account sharing, we're not going to reverse this situation, sorry, you have all of your things gone, stolen, shabigaban. Now, the story goes even further, and this is the part where it starts to get more interesting and a little more confusing as to the Blizzard's logic. Going through, he sends another email after having talked and got this notice from them saying that he couldn't get his character back, and he says, alright, I can understand, yes, I account shared, it sucked, I'm sorry for it. I was going for Grand Marshal. These things needed. It was 8 months taking to get to Grand Marshal. And I've paid my subscription every single month for those nearly 2 years. And I went through over there, and I did it before cross-server Battlegrounds, that made it easier. I was doing the best that I could, and now I lose my character. I get no warning. I get no, sorry, slap on the wrist, don't ever do it again, but here's your character back. No, I get my character stolen entirely, no chance of getting it back, all because I account shared. Is this really justified that I lose all of this because of the fact that I account shared in assisting in getting to Grand Marshal? And that's the real big situation here. I mean, yeah, he did violate terms of service, but he also was doing so in order to attain something that was a core part of Blizzard's gameplay.
Well, I don't think it's, that he deserved to have it taken or that it should not be given back but I understand why they're not doing it, why they're not giving him back his character and why they gave him a warning, because from their eyes his account isn't that secure. I mean, he may change it a lot and all that stuff, but he doesn't, he shares it a lot from what they can see, probably, which is probably pretty obvious when the signs for sharing account, and had his character stolen. In their eyes, it's probably not a very secure account, and they're afraid it'll probably happen again. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to give it back.
To that same extent, though, I mean, I would consider it a bad PR move. I mean, Lord knows if I had ground to High Warlord on my main, and, many people who know me know that my main is my main. I mean, there's nothing that draws me away from the character. I have a couple of 60s, and that's fine and everything, but I only played those things casually. I mean, it took me, I think it was 14 months to get my rogue from 1 to 60, mostly because I didn't want to play my rogue, I wanted to play my warrior. And if I had ground out to High Warlord and then lost the character, you know what? I think I'd be done with the game.
And I understand why. I mean, it's a time sink and you lost all that time and you would be done with the game. But, I mean, let me pull out an example that probably doesn't make sense and probably will get laughed at and told what the hell does that have to do with the game. But let's say you let people stay in your house and you gave them the key to your house. And every 2 months, like this guy, you changed your locks. So every 2 months, you had new locks. And then one day, somebody breaks into your house and steals your TV. Well, and you go to the cops and you say, this guy stole my TV. And they'll probably say to you, well, you're giving all these people your keys and all this stuff. Of course someone's going to come and steal something.
That's true, but at the very same end, yeah, you gave them your keys, but you've been changing the password to your keys, therefore it's very limited as to who it could be, so the police would thereby go after the specific people that could have taken it, rather than, yeah, you gave them your keys, that sucks to be you.
And
I'll go ahead.
Dunkor, go.
Well, I was just going to say, and I'm sure that Blizzard is probably going to be going after the person that they suspect, or the people that they obviously do know who stole his account and where this character went and all that stuff. And I'm sure that guy's probably going to just have his account locked and frozen or whatever. But, I mean, I don't think that... I understand... I mean, I would like, if I was in a situation, to get my character back, but I understand why they wouldn't be giving it back.
To that analogy, though, it is kind of like, you're giving out keys to your house and somebody comes in and steals your TV. But in that sense, in that sort of definition, the cops would have your TV sitting in their evidence room behind lock and key, and they're going, no, you can't have your TV back because you gave out keys to your house.
And it's understandable, but if you were paying the cops, let's say, $15 a month, and you were renting said TV from them, then they wouldn't give it back because they would be afraid that you would lose it again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, dealing with the security concerns, that goes even further into the story, as there's one last component to this. Because, as Nobu, you've said, had you lost that character, had you gone up to Grand Marshal, you would be done playing WoW, wouldn't you? Well, this guy, he's looking out for guild progression, or at least that's what he says. He's trying to progress with the guild and help it out, and he really enjoys WoW. So, he tries to make a new account, so that he could end up playing some more and keep going. Now, of course, having had this traumatic situation where you've got your account stolen and your first and last name is on another account somewhere, you aren't necessarily going to want your first and last name on that account. But you've got situations, as we're about to describe here. He goes through and he sets up this account and he calls Blizzard and says, I don't want my first and last name on this account because of the fact that my account's been compromised, my character's been stolen. I don't want the same information on this new account because he could do it again. He's got the same information. Why couldn't he just steal another character from me? Be it whether it ends up being someone else, or if it actually was that it was true and that he got a keylogger installed on his computer or a Trojan on it, you could understand where you wouldn't want the same information on the separate account. So he talks to a Blizzard representative after 45 minutes of waiting, and they say, nope, sorry, has to be the same name as on your driver's license in order for it to be valid. Otherwise, you cannot keep it. Now, I'm sure he probably could have put someone else's, like a relative's name or something like that, but he ends up putting the name in for the account when he makes it and realizes, wait a minute, this is going to happen all over again. And now Blizzard says, sorry, it's a security concern. You can't change your name to anything other than what's on your driver's license. Good day, sir. So now, not only has his character been stolen on some other account, and he'll never see it again after Grand Marshal gear and full Tier 2, as well as some AQ40 stuff. He tries to make an account and wants to be secure to make certain that this will never happen again, and wants to continue paying, and he gets screwed because he has to compromise it for the sake of security. What kind of security is that?
Well, I mean, I definitely... Go ahead, no.
I was going to say, he would be perfectly secure as long as he, if he protected himself. Now, I don't know, I might not be like most people, but for sensitive pieces of information, like my World of Warcraft account, for things like that, I actually change my password once a week. For my email, for everything like that, I change once a week. Now, I know that has only a small chance of actually succeeding in, screwing over a keylogger, because typically they're very quick about, oh, I've got his info, I'm going to access right now. But it's just another protection that I do. If he just changed his security question and changed his password and never gave out his info again, he would have the exact same security as having changed his name.
And changing his password, though it will not stop a keylogger, Blizzard is not responsible for you downloading crap onto your computers. And if he still has this keylogger and he hasn't made any steps towards removing this keylogger, if it was in fact a keylogger, and this keylogger just did it to him again, that is his fault, not Blizzard's.
Now, I gotta say again, I can't describe how I feel for this guy. Were I in his shoes, even my patience and dedication to World of Warcraft would be tested to the absolute maximum, because I really have put all of my eggs into one or two incredibly large baskets, and if that basket happens to get stolen, that's a huge, gigantic chunk of time and effort, and my personal frustration that has just gone out the window. And I don't think I could describe, to put into words, what this guy is feeling in his heart and his mind, and how he could possibly still keep playing the game that he loves so much and he loves the guild so much. I can't describe how admirable that is. But, on the same token, this just, to put it in, I'm back at internet terms, it just sucks.
Yeah, and I do understand. I would probably question why I'm playing this game and what I am doing and whether or not I really truly want to go and, grind to 60 again and get all my stuff and join my guild or all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. But, I guess I'll be the champion for Blizzard in this debate. Blizzard doesn't need him, unfortunately. That's the way that things go. 7 million accounts. And it sucks that this is how their PR is, that things like this they can't do. But I definitely understand their point. It sucks, but, you know, they don't need you. This isn't... this isn't, you know, Enter the Matrix or Matrix Online. This isn't, Dungeons and Dragons Online, EverQuest 2. They don't need your account. They don't need your money. They've got plenty of money. And though they like to do their best, PR isn't their strong point.
Or necessarily their top priority, considering the number of people they have playing the game right now.
True enough. Blizzard is not a very large company, and they have Vivendi, you know, publishing, but I don't know what the ins and outs of that relationship are. But Blizzard, in and of itself, is not a very big company, and I'm sure their PR, like many other things, like their GMs and many other aspects of the company, is outsourced to other companies to handle for them because they don't have the resources to do it. And this is just probably one of those things.
As a corporate guy myself, I most certainly, absolutely, positively see Blizzard's point in this whole thing. I mean, okay, let's face it. Let's take an example that more people might understand. You go to any of your class forums, right? You go to your class forums, and you read up on all these conspiracy theories about, oh my god, if they nerf this, if they nerf improved Rend, what could be next? Thunderclap could be next, and Thunderclap then, then Impale, and then Piercing Howl, and pretty soon they'll just, screw over the entire class. Well, you can apply that to corporate standards as well. If Blizzard gives a little, if Blizzard gives an inch on their policies that they have set in stone, those policies will very quickly crumble. They actually do need to hold true to their policies, and they can't make exceptions for people, because if they make one exception, they're going to have to make a dozen, and if they make a dozen exceptions, they're going to have to make about 10,000 exceptions. In order to get Blizzard to make an exception for you, you pretty much have to be a multi-million-dollar corporation in yourself.
Not necessarily. I do actually have 2 people who have managed to get very large exceptions coming out of Blizzard when it comes to character dealings. Very big things right here. Friend of mine from a different guild way back in the day. He had 4 level 60 Alliance side, and his girlfriend had 4 level 60 Alliance side. They decided, you know what? We don't want to play Alliance on this server anymore, but we still want to play on the server. So they go through and they delete all 4 Alliance characters on both characters and roll Horde. Get up to 60, and lo and behold, character transfers come out. So they decide, you know what, maybe we can get those 60s back. So they petition Blizzard. They say, hey, we've got these characters that were Alliance side that we deleted. Now that we've got character server transfers, would it be possible to maybe move those over to a different server so we could still keep them? Because the only reason we deleted them was so that we could play on the Horde. And Blizzard put it through. Amazingly enough, all 8 characters got transferred with their gear to a completely different server for them to have on there so that they got to keep their characters. That's a huge compromise and favor that Blizzard did for them. They go through all that situation, and now this guy can't even get a different name on his account to ensure security.
Well, I understand. I mean, transferring those characters is stuff that you wouldn't expect them to do, but they did it anyways. But with this guy, he is an admitted account sharer. And this is, getting Blizzard to bend the rules a little is hard enough when you're scot-free and not doing anything wrong. But this guy is clearly doing things that they don't like. And though he goes the best way about it, making his account as secure as possible while sharing, and is probably more secure than other accounts, it still looks less secure, and it looks to them like he's just a guy who shares an account and doesn't care about the game, and it's a much harder sell, which I can see why he's not getting the slack that other people get.
That's true, but it's a difficult situation to look at it from, alright, why did they get such an amazing transfer and such luck, and yet this guy can't even get the decency of a little bit of a help on this new account? I can understand with his Grand Marshal character, that sucks, but he is at fault for that. But I mean, he is just looking out for making certain it doesn't happen again, whether it was his fault or not.
Now, to the issue of the account name, it's actually it's law. I think as damn near as it can be, that the person controlling the account must have their name on it. I mean, I'm pretty certain that there's some sort of legal binding, if not in the EULA or end user agreement, that it's somewhere that you have to have your name. Now, he could literally have someone else sign up his account, and it would have happened, and Blizzard probably wouldn't have cared. But I mean, in all honesty, and like I said, I totally feel for this guy. What did he expect them to say?
All right, I've got a good example for this. My name, Andrew Nordman. Say I don't want Andrew on there. My name, I want it Drew instead of Andrew. That is enough of a derivation from the name in order to make it so that they can't transfer a character over to that. But it's still my name. It may not be Andrew Nordman, the exact name that I have on my license, but it's still Drew Nordman, and it would be accepted with the enough information to be the exact same person. He's not even allowed that. I mean, it's not like he's trying to be Rico Suarez when his name's Bob Dylan. I mean, he just wants a slight change to the name in order to say that it's not the exact same thing and character transfer can't go through.
Well, and character transfer is not full name, it's last name. That's one of the things. Max Babs had a cousin who was had like a level 30 warlock that she didn't want anymore. Max Babs got it. They had the same last name, transferred over, bam, done. It's last name, not first name. Drew Norton would be able to, someone could hack into your account, go on, create an account named Andrew Norton, and move everything over.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from here. You just need the same last name because you can transfer characters within family, because the whole point and purpose of the between account transfers was for kids who played on their parents' account or spouses that played on their spouse's account, that they could get their own account.
I see. My misunderstanding on the situation when it comes to what names need to be there. I was under the impression that you had to have the exact name rather than just the last name. Apologies.
No worries. But yeah, I mean, to say that this sucks, that his situation sucks, is a complete and total understatement. I mean, you can't go, ha 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 ha, noob, lols, account sharing, FTL. You can't do that to this guy, because, I mean, we're all gamers, we're all people behind keyboards. We all know how bad it sucks to have crap like that happen to you, whether it has happened to you or a guildie or a friend of yours. I mean, you know how bad that stuff sucks. But there's a process, and unfortunately, Blizzard has deemed it that they can't help this guy out. Now, because of the whole legal issues with the end user agreement and the terms of service, Blizzard is well within their rights. He literally doesn't own anything on that character, and I hate to say it, but he's kind of screwed.
So it would seem. Dunker, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, unfortunately, that's sort of the case in this situation. He, as much as we all feel for him and wish he could have his stuff back, he obviously tipped some red flags when they were doing their investigation, and they felt it necessary that they should not help it.
Indeed. Well, I think that now that we've thoroughly discussed this situation, we should go to a quick music break, and we'll start off with the rest of our topics here on Wild Things Considered. Alright folks, you're listening to Wild Things Considered here on WoW Radio with myself, Kedwalion, Dunkor, Nobunaga, and Moose. We have plenty of more things to talk about. Stay tuned. This is I'm Alive by Disturbed. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to WoW Things Considered here on WoW Radio with myself, Kedwalian, Dunkor, Nobunaga, and Moose. Next up, we have an interesting topic, and Nobunaga has the details.
Indeed. To say that I am passionate about this issue would be an absolute understatement. What I am about to discuss has been the nightmare of warriors since the idea was first suggested. What I am going to talk about today is rage normalization. What rage normalization? A lot of people might hear that and go, "Oh, rage normalization. Those are, normalization is a positive word. Well, it can't be it must be a buff." And no, well, it can be a buff to some people. For said instance, does your warrior have less than 60 DPS total in all of your gear with all of your buffs? If it does, you'll get a buff with this. If not, if you're like the 90% of the warrior population and you have a DPS above this, you'll be nerfed. Now, while this might be throwing the yellow flag down in the field a little early, a lot of testing's been done. Rage normalization is coming in with the expansion. Now, I understand that warriors are a gear-based class. You have your abilities, but other than your abilities, you are just nothing but hit points. Your whole point is to take hits or to give hits. And to do both, you need to have the gear. Now, the problem where this comes in is that gear scales. So, obviously, the warrior class has to scale with the gear. So as the gear becomes more powerful, the warrior class becomes more powerful. Whereas such classes as, mage and priests, yes, their gear scales along, but it's not like their class receives such a drastic power level difference between, say, somebody with, tier 1 versus somebody with tier 3. Yeah, they're going to be able to heal a lot better and they're going to have the experience, but it's more the experience and knowing how to use the abilities they have. Whereas a warrior, if you put, a warrior with, the Arcanite Champion versus somebody with, the Might of Menethil, unless the guy with the Might of Menethil is asleep, he's going to win. But, pray tell, not anymore. Not anymore. With rage normalization, that guy with the Arcanite Champion, he too will have a equal chance, quote, or not really quote, but that's my own quoting, an equal chance of defeating that person in the full epic tier 3, 4, 5 epic rating gear, however you want to say it. Basically, I could bore people with some really hardcore mathematics, and I may as well post the really confusing graph in the channel, and I will attempt to explain the graph to people as I talk about it. One moment while I get that. Yes, pictures with nice colored lines for you to look at.
Colored lines? You went all out on this one.
Oh yes, colored lines indeed.
Somebody spent some money at Kinko's.
Hey, I went all out for this. This is the inaugural show. You gotta go all out on this one. But anyway, I invite you to open up that image, and remember, don't focus your eyes on any one particular section of the image for too long. You might confuse yourself. I know graphs, especially ones like this, can be really quite confusing, and it took me a while staring at it to actually sort of, get what it means.
Getting lightheaded.
Okay. To sum this up without tossing a huge amount of mathematics at people, what you're looking at is a comparison between two people who were effectively testing rage generation in the beta at level 67 and at level 61 versus the live server and versus the beta server. Now, according to Blizzard, there's been several blue posts on this issue, and effectively what Blizzard is saying is that the warrior class is defined by its use of abilities as well as its gear. Gear determines its DPS determines its rage generation, aka its mana. what it needs to use abilities to get more DPS. Effectively, what they're doing is people who are under a certain benchmark, who are doing less DPS, as I said, 60 to 65 DPS seems to be their, quote, mid-range. If you do less DPS than that, you will be receiving, in the expansion, a boost to your rage generation, allowing you to use more of your abilities. More Mortal Strikes, more Whirlwinds. You still, of course, have to contend with your cooldowns, but you will be receiving more rage. Now, to a hypothetical situation, I don't have exact the description here, I might have to back up. But effectively, what these guys did was they had basically test subjects, and they tested with only 5 talents spent in cruelty. They swung various weapons at unarmored targets, cataloging how much damage they did with the weapon speeds, how much damage they did, how much rage they generated. They would swing once, stop, count the rage, count its deterioration, do it again and again and again. Now, any warrior worth their salt that's listening to this right now knows that you don't get the exact same rage every time you swing at someone. If you swing at someone and you hit them for 300 damage, you will get a certain amount of rage. If you swing and hit someone for 400 damage, you're going to get more rage than what you just got when you hit that person for 300. It's a scaling system. The more damage you do, the more rage you get. It's quite simple. Now, what this is doing now is it's changing rage generation from being so hard-coded into the damage you do, but more encoded into the weapon speed of the weapon that you're wielding. This, of course, changes as you level up. For that instance, you can see at the bottom of that graph that at level 61, it has a formula of such a weapon speed plus damage divided by 67. Then at level 67, it changes. The same weapon speed plus damage divided by 71. Basically, as you get higher and higher in level, the formula changes so that, yeah, you might be doing more DPS, but you're generating less rage as you level up. Less abilities, less DPS. I'm really hoping I'm not losing anybody. I'm trying to be as simple as I can with this, but basically what I'm flagging here is that Warriors, your nightmare is coming. Rage normalization is coming. Now, I'm not even going to begin to talk about my personal experiences until after this is all done here, but rage is being normalized to the fact of your gear is going to have very little impact on an overall scale. Yeah, if you're wearing all level 30 greens, you're going to be generating more rage than had you been wielding epics. That I find disturbing. Such to the point where, if I want to generate rage, I'm going to equip this worn dagger, and I'm going to stab at this target with my worn dagger and get more rage than I would have because I'm attacking faster than with my Ashbringer, and then I'm going to swap to my Ashbringer Mortal Strike and then swap back to the worn dagger. I don't think that'll happen, but it's most certainly a possibility. But, graphs aside, let me tell you about my personal experiences. I rolled on the beta some time ago, and even back in alpha, but I won't talk about don't worry about alpha. Back in beta, when I first logged in, I didn't even know. Because I avoid the Warrior forums because all it is whining and complaining. If you've been to your class forum, it's whining and complaining. I mean, you guys ever been to your class forums?
I have, on occasion, mostly to look up the lockpicking FAQ.
Oh yeah, I've been there. It's not pretty.
I don't mind it so much for the priests, just because it's a general consensus of either the shadow priests and then everyone else. And I tend to ignore the shadow priests.
Well, we're pretty much all in agreement that going to your class forums is an exercise in destroying your brain cells. Yeah, it probably destroys it faster than, drinking, several dozen beer in a night. However, getting beyond that, I logged into the beta for the very first time not knowing about rage normalization. I went all the way down the arms tree to endless rage. Two-handed, MS, the whole deal. I have my Ishkandi, I have my Sulfaris, and I have my Thunder Fury. But I wanted to go out and try a two-handed MS build with all of these new talents, Blood Frenzy, everything. It seemed so nice. It was so fantastic. And I thought, I'm going to be an unstoppable engine of destruction, and I'm going to level hardcore. Because, I want to get out there, and I want to have fun, and I want to, experience this new level 70 content. I was so excited, and I ran out, and I got my first quest, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to go kill me some boars. So I ran out, and there are these level 60 hellboars running around. And I walk up, and as typical, in my my live server days, I don't charge. I walk up in, Berserker stance, Blood Rage, pop Berserker Rage, and I start hitting it. Combined with Blood Rage, 3 swings of my Ishkandi, and Berserker Rage from the boar hitting me, I did not have enough rage until a 4th swing of my weapon to do 1 mortal strike. Now, that was, and I know that sounds suspicious and, oh, you're over-exaggerating. I'm not. Okay? This is why I'm very passionate about this issue, is because, yes, I'm sure they have tweaked things since then, but that was my very first experience. I ran out there, whacked this hellboar several times with Blood Rage and Berserker Rage, and I did not have enough to do a mortal strike until I had 1 more swing. And it continued for the rest of the combat. And I thought, okay, that's really strange. I'm gonna go keep doing my quests. And I got my butt kicked in every fight. I got my butt hardcore stomped by every mob who was equal level than me. It felt like I was back before the whole idea about way back when warriors were very first leveling in the whole 1 to 60 on live. Way back in the day before there was no 60s. Warriors, if they missed, if it was blocked, dodged, or parried, you would lose all the rage you ever lost. You didn't get any rage when they, blocked, dodged, or missed, when you blocked, dodged, or missed, and you didn't get any rage if you got hit. It felt like those days again. It felt like I was back in the old days of WoW. Except, I'm standing there in Naxxramas DPS epics and an Ashkandi in hand. And I thought, wow, what the hell's going on? So I experimented for a while. I continued to quest as best I could, and eventually I said, okay, I can't do this. I went to my guild forums for the live server, and I posted, look, when or if you guys get into the beta, try it for yourself. I'm not going to say don't do it. Try it for yourself. Go and try out a two-hander build with arms, and you will change to Fury, and you will never look back. And I did that. I portaled back to Undercity, respec to Fury, tons of points in Fury. I came back, Maladath in my left hand, Thunder Fury in my right hand, and I went off and I quested. And damn it if I didn't kill stuff. And I killed stuff fast. And I didn't take much damage at all. I had all the rage I needed. I was in Berserker stance with, I think 1,300 unbuffed attack power thanks to the new improved Berserker Rage, improved Berserker stance, talent at the end of the arms tree, or almost the end of the arms tree. And I was slaughtering through things like you couldn't believe, critting all over the place. I was having a blast. And I realized, well, what's the difference? And I looked and, I was generating pretty much the same rage per hit every single time. And as every warrior knows, you don't do that on live server. Even if you're using Fury, you hit with your offhand weapon and you get 3, 4, 5 rage. With your main hand, you get 5, 6, 7, 8 rage. And you just keep going like that. But it's a variance. It's not a hard-coded number. But what now with rage normalization, and I hate to drop the big red flag of emergency, but in the expansion, if you hit somebody with a one-handed weapon, you're going to get either this number or that number of rage. No matter what damage you do, no matter if you crit, you'll get a little more. You might get, quote from Blizzard, 2 to 3 points more should you crit. That's including it being a two-hander. Now, any warrior from live knows if you crit with a two-hander on live, you're probably getting 30 to 40 rage. That's enough for mortal strength. That's enough to keep you going. Because let's face it, two-handed damage in PvE, it's great. It's not fantastic. But basically now, you're going to get a specific amount of rage every time you hit somebody. So this means now that you have to worry about your actual rage usage. I mean, warriors will be very familiar with the term spam string. This refers to the practice of spamming the hamstring button in the event to try and get Flurry or Sword Spec or Wind Fury Totem to proc to increase your DPS and thus increase your rage, and to keep going as such. You can't do that anymore. You use a hamstring, suddenly half your rage is gone, if not more. Rage normalization is the bane of warriors. It was a topic that people in the warrior forums would say, "Shh, don't talk about it, they might do it," because it was actually a nightmare for warriors. Now, don't think that tanks get off easy on this either. Don't think tanks get off easy on this one either. Of course, as you typically do, I had the tank in instances, and I went and I spec'd complete prot. I thought, okay, well, let's see how prot does for rage normalization. And I'm going to quote from some articles, and this is quite a united opinion amongst many warriors. Doing a 5-man with this rage normalization doesn't feel like you're fighting the mobs. It feels like you're fighting your own party members. Because without rage, you can't hold aggro. And let's face it, one good crit fireball from a mage is going to pull aggro from you if you don't have a couple of sunders on the target. And to get sunders on the target, you need rage. And to get rage, you need to hit and you need to be hit. And quite unfortunately, up until around level 66, any attempt I had at tanking instances was nothing more than me spamming taunt and sundering the crap out of things and just hoping they didn't ask me to tank more than one thing at a time, because you couldn't hold the aggro because you didn't get enough rage from being hit. Getting hit now is a static rage number. If you get crit, you'll generate a bit more. But if you get hit for 2k and you get hit for about 1,000, you will generate the exact same amount of rage. Give or take 1, maybe 2 points. When before on live servers, if you got hit for 1,000 and you got hit for 2,000, you would gain nearly double the rage. And any tank in any raiding guild will tell you, if he's standing in front of Nefarian, Cro-Magnus, Nubricon, any boss, he will tell you he has unlimited rage. He can do whatever the heck he wants. He can spam whatever buttons he wants to hold as much aggro as he can, because that damage gives him infinite rage. And thus his guild can unload and kill the boss. You can't do that now. You can't spam your buttons. You actually have to calculate out in your head what is the best consumption of your rage to the ability versus threat generation. Tanks suddenly have to, not to insult my fellow warriors, but actual tanks, not DPS warriors, but tanks now have to think. Tanks now actually have a real and honest job to do besides spamming 5 buttons on their keyboard. And watching out for using taunt. I could probably go on for days talking about this and how it is the bane of warriors to come. Now, I've hit 70 on the beta, and I've been doing a lot of tanking in the level 70 instances. I did some tanking in Karazhan last night. Now, Karazhan seemed to be a bit better, but I was getting hit for 5 to 6k. I was getting about 8 rage every time something hit me, and thankfully there are some very nice talents in the prot tree, very deep in the prot tree. Combat Mastery, I believe, is one of... no, not Combat Mastery. It is a talent which lowers the cost of all of your, quote, offensive abilities by 1, 2, and 3. Then you can also pick up Improved Sunder Armor, which reduces the cost of your Sunder Armor by 1, 2, and 3. Basically making it 4 rage to do a Sunder. That actually made it possible to tank in Karazhan, was the fact that I was getting about 8 rage every time I got hit. I could do a couple of Sunders, I could hold the aggro. But let me tell you, to all the warriors out there, start learning to be Fury, or start picking up that tanking gear, because the days of MS are going away. And while I'm sure there will be, like myself, there will be many purists out there who stick with their big two-handers, it's going to be a difficult road ahead, my friends.
It sounds to me like they're trying to normalize all warriors, but instead of going with like a general benchmark, like say for example level 60 DPS versus level 70 DPS. They're gonna try and pick something that allows both level ranges to do something around level 65 DPS. But instead of doing that, they're just trying. It sounds like they're trying to make all warriors scale down to the lesser of the warrior community, so that the lessers don't really have much to work for. They're already at their prime, and all the higher ups are, well, crap. This sucks.
Well, I mean, and to quote TB, it has to be said, the expansion is not live. And they've said many times when people complained about changes made, like the mages and stuff like that, that tweaks will be made, things will be changed. Not everything in the beta is how it's going to be. There will be changes. I don't know how much rage normalization will be changed, if at all. But even if it's not changed and it goes live, it doesn't completely break the class. It changes stuff, some pisses people off. It makes them do things they didn't want to do. And if there's enough of an uproar, they will switch it back or manipulate it to how people like. They're good about that. They don't just say, well, too bad, L to P.
Yeah, and I'm now that I've looked away from the graphs and my facts here, I'm looking at the channel, and I already see people talking about, 5 to 6k isn't that much. This was trash mobs hitting for 5 to 6k every 0.75 to 0.1 or 1.25 seconds. That's Karazhan for you.
Then again, how much health you have at level 70 in tanking gear?
In tank gear, fully buffed, I have 13,000.
He's over 9,000!
Yeah. I see Cat has a problem with his microphone now, as we cannot hear him.
That's awesome. All the listeners got to hear me laugh as I was doing nothing except having my mute on. But I'll play the skeptic role here. What would be the reason for doing this in this fashion? I mean, obviously, Blizzard wouldn't just say, you know what, we're going to screw all the DPS capabilities. There had to be logic into this, rather than just, we're going to make it so that it's a standard number. I'm sure that there was more to it. And I'm looking also at the formula that has been released by one of the members of Blizzard EU, one of the blue posts, for how they generate, they calculate the rage generation for damage taken and damage hit. And the numbers that are going through my head don't seem to be as small as it seems. Or as you're telling me, you could be completely right and I could be horrible at math, but it just seems like that's an extremely small number, and I think that Blizzard would have a better idea of this, other than making it more valuable for all the talents that decrease the amount of rage required.
And also, I mean, your whole point about how tanks now having to, instead of just spam Thunder Armor and Taunt, have to decide what is good for threat generation per rage and all that stuff, it kind of makes me laugh a little, because all the other classes have been doing that for a long time. Mages have to decide how much damage they can do without pulling aggro. Priests have to decide how much healing they can get in per mana without running out of mana. I mean, us rogues have to decide, well, how can I go, all out and stab stuff in the back without, going, oh my god, they turned Nefarian towards us and he's shadow flaming us.
Well, I have to agree. Allow me to make this, I guess, connection. Warriors are going to be less able to generate threat and aggro on a mob. You're also, then, it's going to have that trickle-down effect. Mages won't be able to go all out anymore. Rogues won't be able to go all out anymore. Hell, people are going to have to go slow.
Not true. We get a great new little anesthetic poison that reduces our threat, which I thought was stupid until I realized how much damage we're going to be doing in other classes and all the minus threat stuff they're getting the classes nowadays. And this might even things out a little, but I understand it'll probably take a little while for a tank to get some aggro, but that's the point of raiding, learning how to do these things. And And the 25-mans are basically what they're catering this stuff for. So none of us have really been into them to an experience. I know any of us have, but Nobu may have. But, I mean, raiding in 25-mans, this may make perfect sense. This is the strange thing about this expansion. They make changes that don't seem to make any sense in the current form of World of Warcraft. But later on, you see the reasons why they may have done these things that they considered necessary.
The problem with this kind of a situation is that this isn't strictly a level 70 situation. This isn't going to affect only people that are going to be raiding in the 25-mans. This is a problem, or could be a potential problem, for people going all the way from 1 to 70, because it affects all of them the whole way through. I'm looking at these numbers and going, yeah, that could be right, this could work, and from Nobu's response and from the response I've gotten from other warriors that are in the beta as well, this seems to be a growing problem. So what can be done with the situation? Because obviously they're going to keep this kind of a method. I can understand they're trying to get a normalization so that warriors aren't as crippled by their lack of gear at certain levels and certain times, by compensating by having a straight number based on level and damage, etc., etc. But how can they fix this situation? I mean, tweak the formulas a bit, maybe?
Yeah, and I agree, and this is the point of the alpha and now the beta, is for warriors to get in there and start spamming. People to be leveling up, which probably doesn't happen that much on beta unless you're a shaman or paladin on the cross-faction. But, I mean, this is the point, to test this stuff, to see if warriors are horribly gimped and are worthless. This is the point. You do this, and then you find out, well, maybe we should tweak with some of these settings.
Mm-hmm. And I agree, which is why I said I didn't really want to drop that gigantic red flag of, oh my god, danger. But, the warrior community needs to be aware of what's coming so that we can analyze it, and then we can make a very loud fuss about it in the most, absolutely noisy way possible without being, illegal against the terms of service. I mean, it's beta. Things are made to be tested, things are made to be tried, to burned into the ground so that they can be, risen from the ashes in a better state, which, benefits everybody and keeps things balanced. Now, what I think the general consensus of the warrior community is they really do not like the fact that they have taken the formulas away from, not completely removed, but they have taken the formulas away from the damage that you deal and the damage that you are dealt as, values that are varied depending upon. But it's more based upon now, like, weapon speeds and your level versus levels of the mobs versus this versus that. There's so many variables now in the warrior class that the math is, I guess, a bit staggering, needing graphs like that, which probably most people looked at, squinted, and just closed.
Yeah, the graphs are hard to imagine, but, this is why you pull this stuff out. The people who are warriors and serious about their warriorness, will read these and understand these better than, say, a rogue like myself, and, look at them and decide what their stance is, and then throw a hissy fit if they feel a hissy fit is necessary. I know there are a few things, like there's some nerf to damage done when you glancing blow, and rogues are pissed off, and I say careface to that, but that's my stance, because I know rogues, and when I see something that I think is, stupid, I'll go, oh my god, this is stupid, why? But if I see something that's meh, I don't care, then I don't care.
Alright, well, we seem to have taken a lot of our time working on this topic, and we've got a lot more to talk about, so I think we should quick switch over to a music break, and we will continue with some of our other topics for today's show. What do you guys say, or do you have any closing thoughts on the Rage generation?
Fury for the win.
Alrighty then, you're listening to WoW Things Considered here on WoW Radio with myself, Kedwalian, Dunkor, Nobunaga, and Moose. Stay tuned, we have much more to talk about, including the changes to WoW 2.0 as part of this week's Mod of the Week. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to WoW Things Considered here on WoW Radio with myself, Kedwalian, Dunkor, Nobunaga, and Moose. And Moose is going to be giving us the next topic. Moose, what do you have for us?
I have UI changes and macro changes.
Macros. What? As a warrior, I use plenty of those. What's changing?
The way the spells are going to be cast is the most noticeable one. However, I'm going to read off some of the most significant changes right now. First off, I don't know if this was ever allowed before, but movement is not going to be allowed, and spellcasting is now only being able to... you can only use it using specified slash commands that Blizzard is giving, no more slash script things.
Yeah, which basically means the end of decursive.
Yeah, the end of decursive, the end of nuke buttons. Oh, I'm gonna miss my nuke button. Anyway, there are different slash commands, some really cool slash commands. Let's see. There's new targeting slash commands, clear target, slash target, last target. Using items is going to be really easy now. Like, for example, if I want to use Zendaleran Hero Charm, I can do slash use Zendaleran Hero Charm, just like that. Or if I wanted to use a specific slot in my bag, or a slot in my inventory, I would slash use slot and fill in whatever number I wanted to use. Slash use bag ID, which is anything in the bag or anything in a slot of that bag. Choose equip items by name, equip items by slot, and then what item you want to put in that slot. And there's even, I like this, there's random things, like slash random use, item 1, item 2, item 3, will attempt to use a randomly selected one of the specified items, which is pretty awesome. I don't know what it's useful for, but it's still kind of cool. Pet control is really easy, a whole bunch of slash pet everything for that. Casting, slash stop casting will cancel the spell that's currently being cast, and there's also random cast, which I'm going to have to try, because that sounds pretty awesome.
So no longer can I have my macro button with Talisman of Ephemeral Power, Zandalarian Hero Charm, and Palm Pyroblast, nicknamed Kill, like every other stupid freaking PvP mage.
The way they have it set up, you'd have to press the button multiple times. Their new slash command for doing multiple things is a slash cast sequence.
Ha! It is. It's quite interesting. How about you give us some more information on how it works, Moose?
I have to find it. Give me a second.
You have no second. Find it now. Or go code.
I think I'll find it. The way it works, you do slash cast sequence, and then you can set parameters, which I will explain in a minute, and then spells. Spell 1, comma, spell 2, comma, spell 3, comma, however many spells or actions you want to perform. And when you do that, you press the button, it'll check parameters, which I'll explain in a minute, and then cast spell number 1, and then when you press it again, it'll cast spell number 2, and then when you press it again, it'll cast spell number 3. I'm going to give you an example. Slash cast sequence, Sinister Strike, comma, Sinister Strike, comma, Eviscerate. This is one button you have to push. You push the button the first time, it casts Sinister Strike. You push the button the second time, it casts Sinister Strike. You push the same button the third time, Eviscerate.
My god, it replaces every rogue in the game! Not really, but yeah.
It sounds interesting. I mean, it makes it so that if you're going to be doing the same sequence over and over again, you don't really need to take up 5 key buttons or nerf the macro system by doing that. I mean, I'd rather just spam the 1 key and then have it hit flash, heal, shield, renew, flash, heal, shield, renew, flash, heal, shield, renew over and over again if I had the opportunity.
You can, in fact, do that with the, there's other things, slash command, I can't talk. Let's say you wanted to set it to certain parameters. For example, if the target is friendly, you cast a heal. If the target is not, you cast an offensive spell. The way this would work is by basically slash command option action, comma, slash command option action. And this goes through and checks if the option is true, then it'll perform the action. If not, go to the next option, see if that's true, and then perform the next action.
see. Now that's kind of interesting.
Here is something more specific. There is an option called Help. This evaluates if the target is friendly. If the target is friendly, Help will return true, and then it will perform the action assigned to that option. For example, /cast Help Greater Heal. If the target is friendly, it will cast. If not, it doesn't cast and won't do anything. You can also have it set up to do multiple things. /cast Help Greater Heal, /Smite. This adds a second spell. And if the first one should fail, for example, if the first target was not friendly, it will not cast Greater Heal, it will go to the next thing and smite.
And it seems to get even more complex with even having not just help, but adding combat as well. So if it's in combat, and if they're friendly, then heal them. Otherwise, cast something else. If they're this and that, and you can have multiple parameters. I mean, it seems like they're adding a lot more intelligence, but that has to be hand-programmed in order to work for the intelligence, rather than you push a button and the add-on figures it out for you.
It gets pretty complex too. For example, another priest one, /cast Help, /cast Help, Combat. Will check to see if you are in combat and if your target is friendly. If both of those return true, you cast Flash Heal. So /cast Help Combat Flash Heal, Help No Combat Greater Heal, Smite. This macro will cast Flash Heal on a friendly target if you, not the target, is in combat. If you are not in combat and the target is friendly, it will cast Greater Heal. If neither of these is true, it will cast Smite.
That's a whole lot of information going on there, so why don't you give them the full listing and a link to it in the IRC channel so that they can peruse all the other aspects of that as well, so they can have a reference guide, Moose?
Very well, I shall link this shortly. There are many commands, most of which are probably useful for every class, including hunters. Oh my god, it's hunters.
Yeah, hunters? What class is that?
I don't know. I think I've heard of them. We use them, what was it, for Nefarian and any other battle? We don't? We like their class call.
Yeah, that's funny, but it seems hunters may actually be useful for tanking with that ability that gives whoever their target threat, or if they want to be jerks and kill the healer, which I intend on doing many times, CAD.
That's very harsh, Moose.
Ooh.
Oh, but it'll be so fun. Anyway, options. You can. There are multiple options. Some of them are target equals unit. If the target is a specific unit that you can specify, it will cast, otherwise it will go to the next option. Help harm. This will determine whether or not your target is helpful. If you do help, it will return true if your target is friendly, otherwise it'll go to the next one. If you use harm, it'll return true if your target is not friendly. This will go, otherwise it'll go to the next one. They're kind of reversible, kind of do the same thing in backwards order. There's combat and no combat, which will do basically the same thing in reverse order. If you are in combat, it'll do something, otherwise it'll go to the next one. If you're not in combat, it'll do something, otherwise go to the next. A great example of that for rogues, actually not combat. Stealth does basically the same thing. If you're in stealth, do one thing. If you're not in stealth, do something else. Okay, an example of that, /cast Stealth Ambush, backstab. This will cast ambush if the player is stealthed, backstab if not.
A question for you, Moose. I just got a PM from somebody asking a very interesting question. In this new macro system, are we still going to be limited to 256 characters?
I will have to investigate that. I would hope not, because that's a lot to write right now.
Yeah, that was my concern, and I'm sure that's the concern of many people, thinking, wow, I could write mods that basically would make my entire class into 2 buttons, and it would be great, and I could have a fun time raiding again without having to, misheading buttons, etc. Wait, that would require more than 256 characters.
Most definitely. So we shall see if Blizzard will let you turn your class into a 2-button system, or they're going to make you make 6 buttons that do basically what 2 buttons could do. Although I don't count pressing more buttons mindlessly as better gameplay, but shrug. Other options, I'm just going to rattle them off really quick. Stealth determines whether or not you're stealth. Mounted, swimming, flying determines whether or not you're any of those. Indoors or outdoors. Modifiers, this chooses depending on any modifier keys you're holding at the time the macro runs. So if you do a macro, you could do, let's say you set your macro to 4. If you hold Control, it'll do something. If you hold Alt, it'll do something else. If you hold Shift, it'll do something else, which is actually really cool. I might have to investigate that. Equipped will determine if you have a specific item equipped. Action bars show it does something depending on what action bar is being shown. Button will do something if a specific button is held down. Pet, choose if your current active pet has the specified name or family. Example, pet, bear, wolf, bear/wolf. Channeling will determine if you are channeling or not, in which case you can do a stop casting macro. So if you like to spam Mind Flay and you hate wasting mana because you get off like a half a tick of Mind Flay before you start Mind Flaying again, you can make a macro that determines whether or not you're channeling. If you are channeling, it will not cast Mind Flay until you are not channeling anymore. Very nice. There's also exists and dead.
I'm assuming the dead is determining whether or not the person's dead, cast resurrection, otherwise do something nifty nice like heal them. Am I correct?
Yep. Although I assume that would only work out of combat unless there's actually for druids that would work because they can do in combat reses. So priest sucks to be you.
Oh, and we have an update from in-game. The macro is limited to 256 characters.
Harsh.
So it's not like you could actually make the, slash, cast Sinister Strike / Eviscerate, because you're not going to have room.
This is true.
Probably.
However, if you could potentially link those up with an add-on that would allow you to maybe do a switch statement for which class you'd be using, and never mind, that's a little too technical.
Yeah, stop confusing people who don't code all the time like me.
Indeed.
One more nifty thing about macroing is something that's not even actually a macro anymore, it's built into the game now. If you cast a ranked buff spell that's too high level for a friendly target, you don't have to go through and search for the highest rank that they can use. It'll automatically downgrade to the highest rank for them, like some mods do right now. So if you find a level 6 and you're a level 50 mage and you cast Arcane Intellect, your highest rank on him, it'll automatically cast rank 2.
Thus making things a little nicer for priests not having to work so hard.
True, but that also gets into the situation where Blizzard is now going to be downranking heals based upon what your level is and what the player level is and how much you're getting for plus healing. So while yes, you are getting an automatic downrank in your buffs, you're also getting an automatic downrank in plus healing on your lower healing spells.
Which is lame. Really, really lame. I suppose that means that Blizzard's going to make fights shorter because priests are going to be running out of mana a lot faster now.
No. In Karazhan, we had a 12-minute boss fight, and that was the first boss.
Ouch. How did your priests do it?
We had one priest, and he was wanding a lot because we were fortunate to have a paladin.
I suppose, but that means you have to be stuck with a paladin in raid group.
Hey, dude, if I can, I'm getting me a pet paladin, and I'm taking my pet paladin everywhere I go once this all hits live.
I have one. His name is Max Maps. Max Maps is going to be my healer in Burning Crusade. We're going to quest, and he's just going to keep me alive.
Getting a little bit more on track, do you have anything more to add?
Just a few things. regarding spell casting with macros, if you want to... this is quite disturbing. Anyway, if you, for example, need to reset your macro, depending on the situation, you can do a /cast sequence reset equals n target combat spell 1, spell 2, spell 3. This can specify a number of seconds after which a sequence resets, or if it should reset on target change or leaving combat. So you can set these options to reset your macro if a certain option returns true.
Yeah, very interesting. Lots of options I see, making it pretty simple, and yet with the character limit, limiting it to how much they can actually do. I think that's a very effective situation, and I'm looking forward to the new macro system.
I'd like to play around with it, but I really am going to miss my nuke button, I have to say it.
Something along the same lines as that is the death to intelligent casting, not just decursive, but overall the inability to automatically select people with a certain amount of health and heal them, which makes emergency health monitor pretty much dead, as well as decursive going out the window. I believe, Moose, you had some more information involving the new situation with bars and unit frames being locked.
Oh yes, there are several secure templates that add-ons can now use to create functional buttons and frames. However, the frames can only be modified in certain ways that Blizzard specifies, so you can't just do anything with frames anymore.
I am very saddened about the situation like that. It makes it a whole lot easier to heal overall, and coupling that with the downranking nerf for healers and changing how they heal there, it's going to be a whole different ballgame for priests come the Burning Crusade.
I think that's the way it's going to be for all classes, most noticeably priests and warriors.
Alright, well, do we have any more information on WoW 2.0 being released and the new macro system?
That's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing I have to add. You can, for hunters who are lazy and are way too lazy to, open their bag and actually feed their pets every once in a while, you can make a macro that'll do /cast feed pet and then /use, dry boar meat or something. And that will automatically feed your pet that meat.
What an interesting situation. Damn hunters getting themselves a new little thing to sit around and do nothing and steal other people's loot. That is not a hunter weapon.
There was mods to do that already.
This is true, but some people don't use mods because they're silly, and now they can have it as a standard function because people are lazy and don't want to have to download.
And it also means that you have more space in your UI, and you're probably going to get better frame rates because you don't have so many mods clocking your system.
Indeed. Well, also on the mod scene and the interface scene, the latest version, for those of you who are fans of Photech, the latest version 5.6 has been released with some new interesting changes. Go check it out if you have it, and if you haven't, go look at Photech. It is a very excellent UI. I think I can speak for everyone here when I say that Photech rock-soars their box-soars.
Indeed it does.
Oh yeah, the older version of Photech I used was kind of nifty, but it stood out from the rest of the mods, and Photech was too pretty to look at, I suppose you could say, and it took up too many resources, and it was noticeable, and it distracted you sometimes. This version of Photech, amazing. I don't even realize it's there until I see other people's vanilla screens, and it's like, oh god, what is that? Oh.
For those of you that are wondering, vanilla is what they now refer to, the beta users refer to as regular World of Warcraft.
It's icky.
Vanilla is indeed a very sad situation. Anyway, I believe the last bit of information for today's show, Dunkor has the scoop on. Dunkor, how about you give us the latest information about that contest?
Ooh, the contest? Yes. Blizzard announced that they are doing a closed beta contest. That's right. For those of you lucky bastards in the closed beta, you have a chance to win stuff. Not like you needed anything else more, but those of us not in the closed beta, because this is an American contest and not allowed in Canada, I believe, you can enter it by just sending them a postcard. You can check out their front page and see out how that goes. But basically what it is the contest winner will receive... The top 5 people will receive a grand prize package that consists of 1 copy of World of Warcraft, 1 copy of World of Warcraft The Burning Crusade, and 1 full year subscription to World of Warcraft at grand prize value of about $240. Yes, because those people in the World of Warcraft beta don't already have World of Warcraft. But anyways, the free Burning Crusade and full year subscription is very, very nice, so it's all great. You might want to enter that.
That is, of course, assuming that you are part of the closed beta contest. Or the closed beta.
Or have the time to fill out a postcard and send it in.
Or have the time to fill out a postcard. I know I don't have time to fill out a postcard.
Postcards are for squares.
Alright, well, I believe that is about it for today's episode of Wild Things Considered. Do we have any closing statements before we close out for the night?
Battlestar's on.
I think I said this before, but Battlestar for the lose.
That's harsh.
Yay,
I think I think I probably just offended like 90% of our listeners, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Battlestar.
That is harsh. Anyway, folks, this has been Wild Things Considered here on WoW Radio. I'm Kid Wallian. There was Dunkor, Nobunaga, and Moose on the show. I hope you enjoyed the show. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Tell your friends about the new show, and tell everyone to go to WoW Radio. One final bit of news before we go off. Epic is a guild for the WoW Radio listeners and staff to play on jointly. It has been created on Daramir, a brand new PvP US server. If you're interested, go onto there, send a PM to any one of the staff who will be playing, and they will gladly give you an invite to the guild. Check it out. It's a great guild, great potential. I'm Kid Wallian. This is Metallica. Good night, folks.